Okay, to summarize, use HTML5 as your basic document type. So you have a very simple doc type, you have a very simple HTML open tag, link and script elements don't require the type attribute, but pretend as though HTML5 required you to follow the rules of XML. In other words, to use lowercase and always to supply an end tag. It'll just make your life easier when you get to jQuery if you do that, so that what the browser stores internally and the text you see on your page correspond very closely together. I've been implying that HTML is simple, or at least a lot simpler than JavaScript. And it's true that the syntax of HTML is pretty simple. In just a couple of hours, you can learn the vast majority of their tags and their meaning. And so it's not very difficult to learn the syntax of HTML, especially as compared to the syntax of JavaScript, which is much, much, much more complicated. But saying that HTML syntax is simple, and we'll see later that CSS syntax is also pretty simple. But to say that the syntax is simple is not to say that web design is simple. So figuring out a good way to lay out the page, making it visually appealing, putting elements next to each other that should go next to each other, organizing the layout of the page that makes it easier for the user to navigate, making input forms where it seems very natural for the user to supply the information, that's not so easy. So HTML syntax and applying HTML syntax to make a good design are two different issues. We've only been looking at the syntax. Web design is a much more difficult subject. All right, even though the syntax is pretty simple, you still want to practice. Practice is the key to all of this. I hope after every single section that you've been listening to and watching, you've stopped the video, tried writing some code, and practiced. Practice is the key, not listening. So if you want to look at the actual HTML examples I showed in this lecture, you can go to courseservice.com, click on the JavaScript tutorial, you can download them, but try modifying them. Try making your own tables. Try making lists with other lists inside of them. Try putting font changes inside lists, inside headings, inside divs, and so forth. And so experiment and play around. Good luck.